Good evening, my dear friends. Today I'm going to take a class on one of the very important topics, that is mandibular nerve. But before beginning it, I just want to say that NEET is not all about stress. It's about consistently studying. So I want all of you to focus and study consistently throughout your journey of NEET exam. So with this motivation, let's begin today's class. It's about mandibular nerve. As we all know, that mandibular nerve is a mixed type of nerve, right? Now, why it is a mixed nerve? Because it contains both motor as well as sensory fibers. It contains both motor as well as sensory fibers. Now, both these fibers passes through foramen ovale. I hope you all remember this mnemonic of male right from your first year of anatomy. So here M stands for mandibular nerve. A stands for accessory meningeal artery. L stands for lesser petrosal nerve. And last but not least, E stands for emissary vein. Very important exam point of view. Now we will learn about the trunk. This is our trunk of mandibular nerve. So the first point here we want to remember that it supplies only one muscle of mastication, and that is your medial pterygoid muscle. Please remember, my dear friends, it supplies only one muscle of mastication, and that is our medial pterygoid muscle. Second point is it supplies two tensors. One is tensor valli palatini and another is tensor tympani. How you can remember? T, T. Two tensors. Tensor valli palatini, tensor tympani. So the first point was medial pterygoid muscle. M for muscle, M for medial pterygoid. Then comes two tensa, that is 2T. Then comes third point. Third point that it supplies nervus spinosus. Now, why it is called as nervus spinosus? Very basic logic based anatomy. Just because it passes from foramen spinosum. Okay. Now comes our fourth important point. The fourth important point is it is connected to otic ganglion. Later on, the trunk is divided into two divisions. One is your anterior division and second is your posterior division. Right? But before moving on anterior and posterior division, I just want you all to revise this once again so that you will remember in your NEET exam. Okay, my dear friends. So trunk supplies only one muscle, that is medial pterygoid muscle. M for muscle and M for medial pterygoid. It supplies two tensa. One is tensor tympani and another is tensor valli palatini. If I'm going fast, then you guys can tell me. I will slow down my speed. Third point is it gives nervus spinosus. Enter skull via foramen spinosum. Last but not least, it is connected to otic ganglion. So these are four high-yield points that give rise to four possible MCQs for your NEET exam, and it is very important, my dear friends. Okay. Now let's move towards the anterior division. But before moving towards the anterior division, I have one question for all of you. That if okay, if trunk supplies only one muscle of mastication, that is medial pterygoid muscle, then rest rest of three muscles are supplied by whom? Yes, my dear friends, they are supplied by anterior division. Rest of the muscle of mastication are supplied by anterior division. And now we'll check on our anterior division. Okay. So, anterior division has three muscles, right? Lateral pterygoid muscle, masseter muscle, temporalis muscle. Now, this becomes obvious that anterior division is mostly motor. Now, why it is called as sensory? It is called as sensory because it contains buccal nerve. Buccal nerve carries sensation to teeth and mucosa of mouth. Okay, so this was all about anterior division. Now let's move towards the posterior division. Right? In the posterior division, we can see that posterior division is sensory in nature. It contains auriculotemporal nerve, lingual nerve, and inferior alveolar nerve. Now, what is the mnemonic? Very easy. The mnemonic is ALI. A stands for auriculotemporal nerve, L stands for lingual nerve, and I stands for inferior alveolar nerve. Now we will check one by one about all the nerves. So auriculotemporal nerve. Why it is important as exam point of view? Because it causes dash syndrome. What is that? It is Fries syndrome. What is Fries syndrome? Fries syndrome is sweating while eating. As we all know, auriculotemporal nerves carry secretomotor fibers to your parotid gland. Any injury to it can lead to Fries syndrome. It has been asked multiple times in your NEET exam, so please focus on it. Auriculotemporal nerve is a branch of posterior division. Okay, sensory to temporal region, auricle, external acoustic meatus, also your TMJ, and carries secretomotor fibers to parotid gland. See, when we relate anatomy clinically enough, we understand it more better. Okay, so clinically, any injury to your auriculotemporal nerve causes Fries syndrome, that is sweating while eating. Okay, now let's move toward inferior alveolar nerve. This is very easy. So it is a branch of posterior division. Wait for a second. Sorry. So it is a branch of posterior division. It enters the mandibular foramen and supplies all the lower teeth, lower lip, and your chin. But before entering to the mandibular foramen, it gives nerve to mylohyoid. Okay. So any injury to it during extraction causes numbness in your lower teeth, lower lip, and chin. What are the signs? Inferior alveolar nerve is responsible for it. Very, very basic. Okay. Now let's move towards lingual nerve. Wait, before moving towards lingual nerve, I want to ask all of you that taste sensation to your tongue are carried by? Yes, friends. Taste sensation to tongue are carried by chorda tympani. So now what the lingual nerve do? Lingual nerve carries your general sensation to anterior two-third of the tongue. What are the general sensation? Their pain, touch, and temperature. Why not taste? Because it is carried out by chorda tympani. Okay. I hope you all understand this. Okay. Now I just want all of you to go through the slides for just a minute. That is, mandibular nerve is a mixed nerve. It passes through foramen ovate. Trunk supplies medial pterygoid. Trunk supplies two tensors. Then trunk gives nervus spinosus. Trunk is connected to otic ganglion. I just want you all to remember this point for your exam point of view. And cherry on the top, please solve the MCQs on WhatsApp group for more good results. It is very important for your NEET exam. As I have already gone through all of this, I know it much better. Yes, guys. Thank you so much for your cooperation. And thank you so much, MDS Conquer, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.